Welcome, welcome, everybody. I see a couple of witches out in the lunch area, so they're heading their way in here to represent. How's everybody this morning? You are welcome here today. My name is Gary Hart. I'm your worship associate. And this is a special place and a special time where we gather to hope for the best, share love with others, and lift our voices to make this world a better place. Please silence your phones and engage your hearts, for this is a sacred space and time. If you're a first-time visitor, we hope you find something here today that will engage your minds and your heart. Welcome. And now everybody's favorite, announcements. Please join us during lunch today. You probably saw the ofrenda out in the lunch area as we celebrate both Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. You are welcome to honor the lives of your loved ones and pets by placing photos and mementos on our community ofrenda. That's Jewel. She did a wonderful job. I think it looks great. On Monday, you can join us at 1 p.m. to make lunches for Community's Child. You'll have some fun at the same time we always do. A lot happening this week. There's a senior covenant group on Tuesday at 2. Seekers group on Wednesday at 10, and men's group, their monthly meeting on Thursday at 9:30. All of these gatherings invite you to join. You will be glad you did. PUC is going to be a voting site from November 3rd to November 9th. So the first Sunday in November, we will hold our services out in the meditation garden. So we won't be in the hallway. There'll be ushers here to help you get to the seats in the back in the meditation garden. It'll be a fun time. And now it's time to light the chalice. Chloe will light that dangerous chalice, and I will give the chalice words. Let the lighting of this flame kindle within us a blaze of hope. Strengthen us for the path ahead. May it guide our feet to take us where we are needed, our hands to work for justice, our minds to know our interconnectedness, and our hearts to loving kindness for all. And now, please rise and greet your neighbor.
Thank you. Thank you. It's so nice to get to go and see folks again for that time. Good morning, all. My name is Chloe Briede, and I'm the interim minister here at Pacific Unitarian Church. And I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween and sending wishes to those who are celebrating Samhain and blessings to those honoring the loss of loved ones with Dia de los Muertos and All Souls Day. It's a big weekend. We also have flowers this morning, lilies from the board, and they've given these flowers in remembrance of Bill Nip. And we hope to have them, we hope to have them here all week long for the groups who are coming through this space to enjoy. So especially for the Senior Covenant group. On this morning, when we talk about the stories that influence us and change the world, we open with these words by the Reverend Dr. David Brendan. Welcome to a new story. Welcome to a day unwritten. We gather to speak of possibility, to remember the losses, to celebrate the victories. As people of story, we embrace the possible over the probable, weaving a story of hope. Join us in the new story. Join us in the day unwritten. Join us in the future of possibility. And as a community that sometimes embraces the unpredictable, we had a little unpredictable happen this morning. Most of the hymns in your order of service are not the ones that we chose for today, so we apologize for that. You'll see some different hymns up here on the screen as we go about our morning. So our opening hymn this morning is instead 145, As Tranquil Streams. So you're invited to rise as you're willing and able.
As tranquil streams that meet and merge and flow as one to seek the sea, our kindred hearts and minds unite to build a church that shall be free, free from the bonds that bind the mind to narrow thought and a lifeless creed, free from a social code that fails to serve a cause of human need, a freedom that reverses past but trusts a dawning future more, and bids the soul in search of truth adventure boldly and explore. Prophetic church, the future waits your liberating ministry. Go forward in the power of a love, proclaiming truth and makes us free.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to invite all the children down. Hi, guys, come on. Oh, while the children are on their way, I just want to take a moment. I was given credit for that beautiful offering outside, but I just want to let you guys know that it's such a community effort. That's an outcome of a lot of meetings for the MTT team, making plans and talking about educating to make sure we're doing these things respectfully and culturally appropriate. And a lot of people had their hands on building it, and that and it's from their own hearts and their own culture. And you can see that if you lift up people of color's voices, that's a very honest and true expression outside. So thank you to Jose and Amy and Sylvia, and yeah, beautiful, beautiful work and love. Yeah. And Leanne, thank you to Leanne and Melissa for coming, and my daughters, and people handmade skulls for you guys to paint, and so much love and detail in there and what's offered. And thank you to Dan and Chelsea for lifting up Halloween and making it so fun. And yeah, lots of great ideas and energy here. So thank you guys. I hope you have the best day ever here. Okay, so Dia de los Muertos and Halloween. Good morning, you guys. Let's talk about a tale of two histories. I made a quiz. All right. True or false? Halloween originated in Ireland from a pagan festival called Samhain that celebrated the fall harvest. No. That's not true? You say true? True, true. It is true and false. It's both true and false. Trick. Okay, Samhain was celebrated across all of the Celtic nations, Ireland, Cornwall, Isle of Man, Brittany, Scotland, and Wales. The Celts believed Samhain was the moment when the spiritual world became visible to humans and the gods enjoyed playing tricks on people. So they gathered their crops by Samhain so they would not be damaged by evil or mischievous spirits who would return on the first evening of the darkest half of the year. So Samhain was Christianized by the Catholic Church, and it eventually became All Hallows Eve and brought to the U.S. by Irish immigrants fleeing the potato famine in the 1840s. So that's how we got from Samhain to Hallows Eve, Halloween, to the U.S., okay? All right, true or false? The ancient Celts celebrated and welcomed the visiting spirits for Samhain. Is that true? Did they welcome them? That is false. False. The ancient Celts believed that all sorts of threatening spirits were out and about on Samhain. They lit bonfires and wore costumes to chase evil spirits away. They even wore animal skins to disguise and protect themselves. Okay. What country does Dia de los Muertos come from? Oh, what? Mexico, that's right. Okay. I need a page turner. Hold on, guys. I know, Chelsea. I'm missing my assistant. Chelsea is in the kitchen. Okay. Dia de los Muertos has roots going all the way back to the days of the ancient Aztec and Nahua people. Well, for over 3,000 years, it's been celebrated. So when Spain conquered the Aztec Empire and the Catholic Church moved the traditional indigenous celebrations and rituals to go with All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day. So kind of like what happened to the Celts, right? Thank you. Okay, true or false, Dia de los Muertos is the Mexican Halloween? False. Besides the Catholic Church changing their culture, Dia de los Muertos and Halloween are unrelated in their history, geography, or ancient cultures. Okay, true or false, Halloween and Dia de los Muertos are pretty much the same thing. You guys are so smart. All right, Halloween is about scaring spirits away. Dia de los Muertos is about celebrating and welcoming spirits. Halloween has nothing to do with ancestors, and Day of the Dead has everything to do with ancestors. So Halloween is rooted in being fearful of the unknown. It challenges us to wonder about the presence of ghosts and spirits. Having become so far removed from its origins when it was a Samhain festival, Halloween is now also a time of celebration with sweets and fun. And Dia de los Muertos it allows us to laugh in the face of death as part of life. It's meant to be a bright, loud, and funny celebration. It's a time to remember our ancestors, how they lived, and to celebrate life. So happy Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. Have a great day, you guys. All right, let's sing out our children.
Here we go. Now let us sing, sing to the power of the faith within. Now let us sing, sing to the power of the faith within. Lift up your voice, be not afraid, sing to the power of the faith within.
All right, it's time for the centering hymn where Severin's going to answer the question, where do we come from?
Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Let's do that again. Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Do that again. Where do we come from? Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Do that again. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we? Where are we going? Let's do the mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Do it again. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Again. Mystery, mystery, life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?
He didn't do that fourth verse, which tells us where we're going, but we'll see that later. It's time for joys and sorrows. The sharing of joys and sorrows is our way to keep the ritual and practice of holding one another in community. That's an important thing to remember, holding one another in community. We speak what is in our hearts because there is a power in standing together in these moments. If you have something in your heart to share, please come and get a candle to light and share your story with us. Come on down here in the front.
Well, I'm here without Carol this morning because she's back in.
I'm going to light a couple candles this morning. The first one is for the families and friends of those in South Korea as we watch the aftermath of that tragic event. And then another one for India. And lastly, we light a final candle for all the joys and sorrows that are unspoken but remain in our hearts. You're invited to close your eyes if you'd like and join me in the spirit of prayer. God, Spirit of life and love that moves among us, we come today as a people with many feelings and emotions. Some of us are broken down like rocks battered by sea, and some of us stand tall like trees rooted into the ground. Sadness is a familiar emotion. For some of us, sadness comes from unknown places, creeping in as days grow shorter and as the bright summer sunshine leaves us. For others, sadness comes from familiar corners, missed loved ones, loneliness, and change that seems hard to endure. The news reminds us that tragedies do happen, remembering in particular those in South Korea and India on this hard weekend. Sometimes this sadness gets mixed with fear of the future with new illnesses and changes to our body and mind, fear of mistakes and of making amends, and fear for our nation as we encounter new and old challenges. We ask, Holy One, that you embrace us in all our sadness and uncertainty. Embrace us with the love and forgiveness of this community. Great mystery, we also pause as a community in a prayer of joys in our lives, for the moments in our week that give us hope and show us beauty, for times with family and friends and with this community, meals shared, sweet little treats handed out to ghosts and princesses. And we pray for those in our community that are doing good work that helps the world and moves us more towards justice. Spirit of life and love, settle among us as we pray for a period of contemplation, and we pause for a period of contemplation and peace. Join me in relaxing into the silence of this moment. I have a fun reading for you this morning, and it's a poem by Julia Donaldson, and it's called I Opened a Book. I opened a book and I strode in. Now nobody can find me. I've left my chair, my house, my road, my town, and my world behind me. I'm wearing the cloak, I've slipped on the ring, I've swallowed the magic potion, I've fought with a dragon, dined with a king, and dived into a bottomless ocean. I opened a book and made some friends. I shared their tears and laughter, and followed their road with its bumps and bends to happily ever after. I finished my book and out I came. The cloak no longer hid me. My chair and my house are just the same, but I have a book inside me. It's very cute. So a little known fact about me is that I'm a pretty big Harry Potter fan. Yeah. The Harry Potter books shaped my generation. I grew up as the books were released. I came of age with that series, even staying awake until midnight in line at the local Barnes and Noble, ready to get a new copy. I, along with perhaps an entire generation, became immersed in that world. We imagined ourselves walking the halls of Hogwarts, flying on brooms over the Quidditch pitch, the wizarding broom sport, and brewing potions in the dungeons of the castle. We learned an entirely new vocabulary from the books. The names of spells like Accio, used to summon something to you, Lumos, a charm to create light, and the so-called unforgivables, like Imperio, a spell that allows the caster to control someone, the not good spells. We learned about potions, like Polyjuice, which allows you to take the form of someone else with just a bit of their hair, and Drought of the Living Dead, which sends the taker into a death-like slumber. We became immersed in another world. Many of us, perhaps some of us, still dream of getting our Hogwarts letter one day. Harry Potter was the story of my generation, much like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings were for past ones. It was a story that provided equal measures of escape and impression. The books and the movies and even the video games let us escape into a familiar, predictable world, one close to reality, but not reality. They also shaped how we saw the world, light versus dark, good wizards powered by love and an interest in the greater good versus bad wizards motivated by power and bigotry. The good guys supported equal rights and wanted peace. They didn't use violence unless it was really necessary. They loved and supported each other even through emotional hiccups. Redemption arcs even happened to those who had been wrong or made mistakes earlier in the story. Things have somewhat changed since I was young reading Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling, the author, has sadly become an outspoken anti-transgender advocate, taking a stance that puts her in seeming contrast to her own books. The community surrounding the books has reacted as strongly pro-trans and says regularly that the story and universe created around it lives on without its creator. The stories have taken a life of their own beyond the author herself. The fans' passion and identification with it is bigger than the comments of its creator. The story has outgrown the parent. And it has, with fans doing everything from attending Harry Potter conventions and writing deviations and continuations of the story from their own imaginations, some probably better written than the original. Novels have, at times, become a welcome distraction or escape for me. During one of the hardest times in my life, I found solace in a series of coffee shop-themed cozy mystery novels. The predictability and descriptions of coffee and food gave me comfort as I followed the protagonist through the streets of New York City, solving mystery after mystery. Others may recall the books and TV shows and even video games that have provided an escape during hard times. We may have also encountered someone who doesn't read fiction or perhaps even raises their nose at the idea of trivial or fun books. Perhaps it might have been you at some point. I know there are genres that I sometimes approach with more skepticism than might be fair. Stories, fictionalized stories, are more than an escape, though. They can change the very way we see the world and ourselves. You might consider how a story has shaped how you see the world, perhaps changing your outlook, helping you consider new possibilities, pushing the limits of your intellect, or even reminding you of your moral values. Science says that novels and stories help us develop theory of mind, the ability to ascribe emotional and mental states to someone else, the ability to make an educated guess at what's happening in their minds and what they might be feeling. People who have just read fiction or who read fiction regularly perform better on theory of mind tests, showing a greater understanding of the inner workings of another than those who read nonfiction. In fact, when someone is highly involved in a fictional story, they show more compassion and understanding to others than when they're not very involved. As someone who sometimes feels overly swept up in fictional narrative, I find it relieving to know that my emotional involvement in fiction is a good thing. It helps me be more empathetic towards others. And it can also change the way we see and act in the world. For example, in one experiment, researchers found that people who strongly identified with a fictional character who overcame an obstacle to go vote were significantly more likely to vote in a real election several days later. Perhaps a lesson that we should all read a story about voting in the next couple of weeks. Maybe next week, actually. Let's do it next week. Along with influencing our behavior and increasing our understanding and empathy towards others, stories may even change our society. TV has been a huge factor in changing the perception of society towards gay and lesbian people. Anecdotally, President Biden's own openness towards gay and lesbian people is attributed to the show Will and Grace. He said that. Other shows like Ellen and Modern Family have also contributed to record acceptance of gay and lesbian people through media, though media is likely not the entire story on this. It's definitely played a part. So next time you see a gay or lesbian person on TV, remember how revolutionary that was 20 years ago and what it did. You might even consider going to the social justice movie in a couple of weeks on the depiction of transgender people in the media. I think that's on November 18th. The reach of fiction in this way goes beyond TV. The science shows that when people identify with or feel familiarity to a gay character, even if they aren't gay themselves, they feel more acceptance towards homosexuality as a whole. Even Harry Potter has been studied and shown to reduce prejudices towards groups like immigrants, queer people, and refugees. The character Hermione is a pivotal hero in the novels and comes from Muggle or non-magic parents. She faces bullying and discrimination from some people in Wizarding Society who believe her to not be pure, describing her as less than the rich and aristocratic purebloods. Other heroes in the book also come from hard backgrounds. An entire family of heroes, the Weasleys, are often described as poor and wearing hand-me-down clothes and bunk together in a tight but cozy house. And even another, Neville Longbottom, suffers from acute shyness and social anxiety, only to be talented in working with plants and ultimately one of the main heroes in the narrative. The list goes on, teaching us that even the poor kid, even the shy kid, even the immigrant can be the hero, can be the force for good. And I want to mention that, of course, fiction and stories are not always good. A well-known example is the horrible effect of the film Birth of a Nation and its recruiting power for the KKK in the early 20th century. Stories can also be addicting and too much of an escape. We know that too, and we could cite plenty of articles on video games and addiction to video games. Writer Neil Gaiman says, "Fairy tales are more than true. Not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten." One can simply extend the metaphor. The dragon can be beaten. The prejudice, the unfair circumstances, discrimination can be beaten. Fiction tells us another world is possible. It helps us feel it and live it. It helps us imagine. Despite the bad examples, we as humans need stories, and we need the kind that help us imagine a better vision for ourselves and for our world. Fairy tales are more than true, not because they tell us that dragons exist, but because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. Other fictionalized mediums can have similar effects. In India, activists use street theater as a way of spreading awareness about social issues. My spouse was a member of a troupe in college going into the streets of Delhi from rich to poor to tourist neighborhoods to give performances that talked about sexual assault. Indian street theater has a long history with roots in the anti-fascist movements of the 1940s. One of the pioneers of street theater, Badal Sarkar, says that the essential tool of the trade is the human body, the potential of the human body, the ability to throw one's voice so that 4,000 people can be reached without the aid of a mic. Sarkar calls street theater a third kind of art. There's folk theater, he says, which often espouses traditional values, Western city theater, Shakespeare, and the like. And then there's the third one, street theater, an art that communicates through the stories of theater, progressive values, and human rights, without the barriers of a stage or ticketed entry, the people's theater. Performances are short. They don't use many props, and there is no stage. The story must be engaging enough to catch a passerby, short enough so they can get the message and still go about their day. Imagine being immersed for a period of time in a story that helps a listener question things like women's rights to wear what they want or the practice of dowry. In the late 70s and early 80s, street theater became a popular form of resistance in the Indian state of Bengal, where anti-communist crackdowns were militant and sometimes deadly. The stories fictionalized for the people helped change people's minds. They brought sympathy to a cause and changed public perception, especially during a time of fascism in India. Make-believe, fantasy, can turn us into better thinkers and better people. It can change us. And so we find ourselves on Halloween, a holiday that encourages us to dress up in costumes, often as fictional characters, an opportunity to live into a world of fantasy, to be superheroes and fairies and ghosts and zombies, and maybe even Harry Potter, embodying the stories and legends that shape our collective psyche. It's a time when fiction and reality meet, a time of play and spooky delight in the stories that formed us. I invite you to contemplate this week the fictional stories that shaped you. How has a fictional tale impacted you, changed how you view yourself or even the world? This week is also Dia de los Muertos and the Christian observances of All Souls and All Saints' Days, the days that honor the saints and everyday souls of the dead. While my reflection today is more Halloween-centric, many of the stories we tell were shared or experienced with others. The books read by parents or siblings, the first movie you watched multiple times with someone, or even a book or comic book that connected you to another as you shared a recommendation or a common connection. Perhaps this week you might also consider how fiction and stories have connected you to others, even those who might not be with us anymore. Beloveds, we are creatures of story and fiction. We learn from it how to love, how to think, how to be better versions of ourselves. May we continue to let our minds wander into lands of escape and exploration. May we be open to the changes we find in other worlds. Amen.
Well, it's time for the offertory. This offertory message comes from John Saxon. This religious community exists by its mission as a fire exists by burning. But a fire cannot burn without fuel. And it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission, and without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. Please give generously.
My wife's mother passed recently, and before a year ago or so, when she could no longer play the piano, she gave me a bunch of her music, and I just happened to find this Felix Mendelssohn piece called Mutual Understanding, which I think we had.
would join me in our affirmation of gratitude. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for all those who share their gifts, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us also be grateful even when our own needs, so that we may experience the generosity of others. And our closing hymn this morning is When the Saints Go Marching In.
Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Lord, I want to be in their number. Oh, when the saints go marching in. Oh, when the sun begins to shine, begins to shine. Oh, when the sun begins to shine, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the sun begins to shine, oh, when the world is revealed, oh, when the new world is revealed. Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in. Oh, when the saints go marching in, marching in. When the saints go marching in. Oh, Lord, I want to be in that number. When the saints go marching in.
This church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all of our differences, beneath all our diversity, there is a unity that makes us one and binds us forever together in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Amen, shalom, salam, namaste, and blessed be. And now our service truly begins.
We need your participation in this one.
If you are bothered by fog effects, you might want to step outside. I was working in the lab late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. For my monster from its slab began to rise, and suddenly, to my surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash.
He did the mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
The monster mash.
He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a jolt from my electrodes.
They did the mash.
They did the monster mash.
The monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
He did the mash.
It caught on in a flash.
The monster mash.
They did the monster mash. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. The scene was rockin', all were digging the sounds. Igor on chains backed by his baying hounds. The coffin bangers were about to arrive with their vocal group, the Crypt Kicker 5.
They played the mash,
They played the Monster Mash.
the monster mash.
It was a graveyard smash.
They did the mash,
It caught on in a flash.
the monster mash.
They played the Monster Mash. Out from his coffin, Drac's voice did ring.
Wow.
Seems he was troubled by just one thing. He opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist is now the mash. It's
They
now
did
the
the
Monster
Monster
Mash,
Mash.
the Monster Mash. And it's a graveyard smash, it's now the mash. It caught on in a flash.
Monster mash,
It's now the Monster Mash. Now everything's cool. Drac's a part of the band. And my Monster Mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you. Then you can mash. Then you can Monster Mash.
the monster mash.
And do my graveyard smash.
They did the mash,
You'll catch on in a flash.
monster mash.
Then you can Monster Mash. Easy, Igor, you impetuous young boy. Monster Mash.
Wow.
Monster Mash.
They did the mash,
They did the
the
Monster Mash.
the monster mash,
It's a graveyard
the
smash.
monster mash,
It caught on in a flash.
monster mash.
It's the Monster Mash.